Good morning, everybody. This is the Men's Sunday School class here at Mercy Baptist Church. My name is Robert Rathbone, and we're going to be in Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 9. We'll be looking at all 18 verses. And in this chapter, Solomon, he's going to be contrasting wisdom and foolishness. He's going to personify each one of those, both wisdom and foolishness, as women who are inviting people to come to their house to eat. But there's a big difference in the result. That wisdom has blessings and benefits of eating at her house, whereas the foolishness eating at her house is actually is more detrimental. It doesn't have the blessings. It looks. She portrays herself as having the blessings, and yet it. Well, it says, her ways go toward the grave. It ends up in death and destruction. So before we get started in it, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you again for your love, your mercy, your grace, Father. And I pray, Father, that you would open our eyes, Lord, as we look at this chapter, Father, and help us to see and understand, Father, that the wisdom that comes from you, Father, is the true wisdom that will bless and benefit us, Father, and help us to avoid the foolishness, Father, that the world has of rejecting you and turning from you and not wanting to obey you. And Lord, help us to just embrace wisdom, your wisdom, Father, and all the blessings that come with it, Father, for it's in the precious name of Jesus Christ that we ask it. Amen. All right, in that first verse, it says, "Wisdom hath builded her a house. She hath hewn out 7 pillars. She hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table." And so, as I said earlier, wisdom is being personified as a woman, apparently a wealthy woman who she had enough money that she could build a house. And it says she hath hewn out 7 pillars. Now, in biblical, there's been studies done on biblical numerology, but in Jewish way of thinking, 7 represented perfection, completion, sufficiency, having a full complement of things. So when it says she's hewn out her 7 pillars, she has built her house and it's supported by 7 pillars, meaning it's a stable, it's a strong house. It's not a house that will collapse, kind of implying the idea that wisdom is a house that you're going to be secure in, you're going to be established in. You can go in there and feel safe. You don't have to worry that it's going to collapse around you. When the storms come, it's going to remain standing. It's the safety and stability and the strength of a fully supported structure seems to be the idea here. So wisdom's built her house. She's hewn out 7 pillars. Then it says she hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine, and she hath also furnished her table. So not only does she have a house, she is preparing a banquet. She's killed her beasts. In other words, she went and killed the lambs and goats and bulls and whatever animals that she, for the meat that she's going to put on her table. She's killed those, prepared those. She hath mingled her wine. That word mingled means mixed. And in that day, they would use water. Well, they would take wine, they would dilute it with water to reduce its intoxicating influences. But then they would also mix it with spices for flavor. And so she has mixed or mingled her wine. She's put the water in it. She's put the spice in it. She's mixed it all together so that it's be flavorful. It's ready to drink for them to enjoy at the meal. And it says she also hath furnished her table. She has prepared not only the meat and the wine, but she's also, I guess, the bread and fruits and vegetables and everything. She's got a full spread, as we like to say. She has got her table full of food. It is a feast ready to be eaten. And these things that he's mentioning here, they're meant to illustrate that wisdom has prepared a feast for us if we will just come to her table, in figuratively speaking, and partake of it. If we, it's just that all these blessings that come through God's wisdom. If we would just come and partake of that, of what she has prepared, then we can really enjoy ourselves. We can, be filled. We can walk away from the table full. I mean, it's just talking about her blessings. Then verse 3, it says, she hath sent forth her maidens, and she cried upon the highest places of the city. And what is she saying? She says, whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, come, eat of my bread, drink of the wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish and live, go in the way of understanding. All right, so it says she sent forth her maidens, and she crieth upon the highest places in the city. She sent out her maidens to invite people to say, hey, come to Wisdom's house, come, and she's prepared a banquet. She's prepared a feast for you. All you got to do is come and eat. And it says also that she is crying upon the highest places of the city. The highest places can refer to highest in elevation, like on the rooftops, on top of towers. If there's a hill or a mountain inside the city, it's, she might go up there and proclaim her invitation. But highest places can also refer to places of authority, either spiritual authority or governmental authority. And so she's apparently going to public places. So she's sending out her maidens, to the hedges and highways, saying, anybody, please come to the dinner that's been prepared. And she's crying out in public. It's very open. It's a public invitation to whosoever will, come and partake of the meal that I've prepared. And here it kind of quotes her. It says, whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. The word simple there, it basically means, to have very little knowledge, or it can mean to be foolish, but somebody that lacks the wisdom. And so they said, look, if you want wisdom, come in hither, come into my house, and I will give you wisdom. I am ready to serve you, the food of wisdom and its blessings and everything. And then it says, as for him that wanteth understanding, and the word wanteth means lacking. For him that lacks understanding, she saith to him, she says, come and eat of my bread, drink of the wine which I have mingled. So it's, she's saying, look, those of you who lack wisdom, who need what I have, just come on in and partake of the food that I've prepared. And notice that she did prepare it. She's killed her beasts. She's built her house. She's hewn out. I mean, she is working. She's not a lazy woman. She's did all these things in preparing for this banquet. But it says, as for him that lacketh understanding, he says, come eat my bread, drink of the wine that I've mingled. And then she says, forsake the foolish and live. and go in the way of understanding. So she's inviting them to come in. He says, stay, forsake, you've hung out with the other foolish people long enough. She said, just, forsake them, abandon them, leave them and come to where you can gain wisdom and understanding. So she says, forsake the foolish and live. Why? Because the foolish are on their way to destruction, because the wise have learned enough that they can avoid the pitfalls and all the things that would lead them into destruction. They get on the right path, the path that God's laid out for them. The foolish, they've rejected God, and they're headed for destruction. So she says, forsake the foolish and live. Proverbs 13:20, and actually I think we'll hit that next week. But Proverbs 13:20 says, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. So she's saying, forsake the foolish and live, because you're getting away. If you stay with them and adopt their ways and stay in what they do, then you're going to end up in destruction. And then she says, and go in the way of understanding. He says, forsake them. It's like, in contrast, you could stay with the foolish and die, but instead you should go in the way of understanding. Go in the way that I'm going to teach you to be able to go. So, go in the way of wisdom, where you gain the understanding and you follow the way of understanding. And you'll have longer life, and you'll have the benefits of wisdom. Verse 7, he says, he that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee, and rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. All right, so here in these verses, Solomon is contrasting the way a scorner responds to correction, to rebuke. When you tell him, oh, but you're wrong, this is the way you should go, or this is the way you should think. They're contrasting the way a scorner thinks, the way he responds to it, and then the way a wise man responds to when he's been corrected or rebuked. Because he says, he that reproveth, and the word reproveth there means corrects. He that reproveth a scorner, and the word scorner means a mocker, somebody who doesn't respect authority. They think they're the smartest person in the room. They don't think that, that for you to tell them, oh, well, you've made a mistake. You shouldn't think this way. Your belief system or what you think about this particular subject is wrong. You need to think this way. They think, well, that's just an insult. And they will mock you. They will criticize you. And they don't like being told that they're wrong. So he that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame. And the word shame, of course, means disgrace or dishonor. Basically, if somebody that thinks they're the smartest person in the room, you try to correct them and say, oh, well, that's not true. This is the way things really are. Suddenly you become the target of their anger, their wrath, their criticism, their mockery, and they will do their best to humiliate you. So this is he that reproveth the scorner getteth to himself shame. And then parallel to that, he says, and one thing to remember about when you're reading through Proverbs, much like in the Psalms, where it's an element of a feature of Hebrew poetry, it'll say something and then they'll say the same thing again, but in a little different way, in a parallel way. Proverbs a lot of them are like that. And so he says, he that reproveth a scorner giveth to himself shame, and then it says, he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. So he's basically saying the same thing again, just a little different way, or in parallel. It says, he that rebuketh, the word rebuketh means to judge or to convict. And, you're basically saying, hey, dude, you're wrong. You shouldn't think like that, or you shouldn't say things like that, or whatever it is. But it says, he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. And the word blot means a blemish. And this could be, the Hebrew word there for blot can refer to either a physical injury, or it can be a moral stain that you can't deal with this person without just getting involved in his sin and the things. It's like if this guy over here and he's telling dirty jokes, and you try to say, dude, you shouldn't talk like that, and then suddenly he's making dirty jokes about you, or you're getting drawn into his world and such. And so he says, he that rebuketh a wicked man giveth himself a blot. In Ephesians 5:12, the Apostle Paul said, for it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. He says, you don't want to get yourself drawn in and pulled into that world and into that context of the what they're saying, the things that they're doing. And so he says, if you rebuke a wicked man, he says, you're just going to get yourself a blot. Either you're going to become the object of his anger and wrath and his wickedness. Like if he's a wicked man, he may not think twice about throwing a punch at you, or doing something to humiliate you, or to try to destroy your reputation, or whatever. He says you're just making yourself a target. Then he says, reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. And apparently the idea here is these people are lost causes. You're not going to change their mind. You're not going to lead them to repentance and help them get better. All you are doing when you try to address them, I think Jesus said, cast not your pearls before swine. I think it's that type of idea here. He says, reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. He says, look, if you try to correct a scorner, somebody that's got an attitude and just got to criticize anything and everyone, you could probably substitute the word fool in here. And Proverbs talks a lot about fools, that they think they're the smartest person in the room, that you can't teach them. They won't listen. They think, anything that if you try to correct them, they take offense at it, and they think you're just, you're totally wrong. But it's the idea here that, reprove not a scorner lest he hate thee. You are just putting yourself in the crosshairs, that suddenly he's going to, now where, he's been criticizing this person and that person, now you've corrected him, now he's going to be criticizing you, he's going to be mocking you and going after you. You become the object of his hatred. And so I think the idea here is you're wasting your time. But in contrast to that, it says, rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. A wise man understands that he's not the smartest person in the world. No matter how much wisdom he's accumulated, there's always more that he can learn. There's always more that he can know. And so he's not going to assume that they say a wise person, the more they know, the more they realize they don't know. And that's what a wise man is. He realizes he doesn't know everything, and if you can give him some more information, some more wisdom that he didn't already know, he says he will love thee. He will appreciate what you're doing for him, that you are attempting to impart to him more knowledge and wisdom that he didn't already have. And so he will appreciate. Where the wicked man or the scorner, he says, hey, get away from me. What do you know? He says, I know better than you. And so he won't listen to wisdom. But the wise man, he says, hey, you got wisdom, something I don't know? Give it to me. I'll take it. I appreciate it. And he will love thee. All right. And in parallel, or going right along with that, verse 9, it says, give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. And he's basically saying the same thing twice again. He says, give instruction to a wise man, he will be yet wiser. In other words, he will accept any additional wisdom that you can give him. He says he understands. He doesn't know everything. I want to know more so that I will be wiser for the future. When the next thing comes along, I'll be better capable of handling the situation. And so he's, a wicked man, a scorner. They're proud. They think they don't need any help. They don't think that you can contribute anything to their quote unquote wealth of knowledge. But a wise man, he's humble, and so he'll accept when you give him wisdom. He'll accept it, take it in, and he'll incorporate it into he'll put it in his toolbox, you could say, of things of what he knows. So he's down the road, he's better capable of handling the situation. And then in parallel to that, it says, teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. And the idea of the parallelism here, these things, it kind of implies that just and a wise man are synonymous or at least overlapping. And a just man is the Hebrew word means lawful or righteous. So if a man is just and he's righteous, he's a righteous man. He says if you teach him, he will increase in learning. He will, he knows that he's not, that he still has a way to go. The closer you get to the Lord and the more just or righteous, that you become in your life, you realize just how far short you fall from God's righteousness. And so he says, if you teach a righteous man, a just man, he says he will increase in learning. He will accept it. He'll absorb it like a sponge. He says, yes, anything that will get me closer and make me more pleasing to God, I want it. He says, give it to me. So a wise man, if you give instruction to a wise man, he'll be yet wiser. Teach a just man, he'll increase in learning, because they want it, they desire it, they appreciate it. Then verse 10, and I'm sure if you've spent much time in church, you've heard this verse. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. The word fear there, the fear of the Lord, it includes being afraid of. Growing up, I was afraid of my father. I know that he loved me, but I knew if I got out of line, that belt was coming out, and he would give me a whooping. And I feared him because I knew that if I got out of line, if I did something wrong, punishment was coming. But I knew that he loved me. And so the fear of the Lord, it includes being afraid, but it also includes that reverence of yes, Lord, you are the Lord, you are God. I hold you in the highest esteem. I want to obey you, and whatever you say for me to do, that's what I'm going to do. And so he says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If somebody wants to be wise, you have to start with the fear of the Lord. Wisdom is not just the accumulation of information. You've got to, the accumulation of information has to be done in the proper context, and that context is the fear of the Lord, that you reverence Him, that He is supreme, in all things. So he says, the fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom. He says, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. The word knowledge there, the Hebrew word, means discernment or perception. It's like understanding that God is, that He exists, that He's there, whatever the situation. Understanding how God thinks, what God wants. He says that, and knowledge of the holy, and the implied the Hebrew implies the Holy One, that is God himself. And remember, this is parallel. Fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom, and in parallel, it's the knowledge of the holy is understanding, and understanding is discernment. It means to be able to understand things, comprehend it. And well, it's like scientists. Scientists have over the years have accumulated, lots of facts and information. They've done experiments, they've studied things and stuff, and they've realized, when you mix these two chemicals together, this happens. If you do X, Y, and Z, then here's the result. And they've accumulated lots of information, and yet they have not got, some of them do, because some of them are Christian scientists who believe in God and trust in God, and they base their understanding of what they observe through the experiments and study and everything in the context that, yes, God, he's the creator. But so many of those scientists do not believe in God, and so they interpret all this evidence in atheistic terms. And so they'll never have true wisdom because they don't acknowledge God, they don't fear God. And wisdom is built, true wisdom is built on the knowledge of who God is, reverence for him, and they want to, it's like they try to explain away creation and say, everything evolved, we had the Big Bang, God had nothing to do with it, and it all just accidentally happened. And yet, they have totally missed the boat. They'll never have true wisdom until they acknowledge and fear God and understand, have that in the knowledge of the holy. All right, verse 11, he says, "For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased." Here it seems to be wisdom is speaking, and it says, "For by me thy days shall be multiplied." No, this verse it's basically a reoccurring theme in Proverbs that you accumulate wisdom and you're going to live a longer life because you'll be, like it says here, your days are going to be multiplied, the years of thy life shall be increased. And part of that is, part of it, wisdom helps you avoid the like I said earlier, the pitfalls, the problems, the dangers. Wise people they see a danger and they'll go the other way. And I'm thinking there's a proverb that says something along those lines that a wise man will avoid the problems because he sees it, but a fool will keep right on going and fall right into the trap or whatever. But a lot of it is fear. It's the fear of God is that beginning of that wisdom, which leads to you obeying God. And obeying God leads to being blessed by God, and being blessed by God leads to a longer life. It's just, one thing leads to another. So verse 12, it says, "If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself, but if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it." All right, so it says, "If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself." If you have accumulated enough wisdom, you are going to be the primary beneficiary of that wisdom. Now, other people, like your family, your friends, they may get some of that blessing, some of that benefit just because of their association with you. But you are the primary beneficiary of the blessings of wisdom because you're the one that has that wisdom. You're the one who makes the choices of what direction to go in your life based on that wisdom that you've accumulated. And then he says, in contrast to that, he says, "But if thou scornest," and the word scornest there means to mock or to boast, as if you think you don't need God's help or you don't need God's wisdom, you don't need to listen to what God has to say, and you mock people who do. He says, if thou scornest, he says, thou alone shalt bear it. You are going to reap the consequences of your foolishness of thinking that you don't need God's wisdom, that you don't need God's advice, or you don't need to obey God. So wisdom benefits you primarily, and then but the exact opposite, the lack of wisdom, the scorning, the foolishness of it, you're going to reap those consequences primarily. All right, so now verse 13, and from here through the end of the chapter is, beginning of the chapter we saw wisdom personified as a woman. She's fixed her table, prepared a table of succulent food, a feast for those that would come to her table and partake. Now we're going to see foolishness is also personified as a woman, and she's going to, in large part, mimic what wisdom was doing. But there's some key differences here that where she's going to be doing things differently from what wisdom is. Verse 13 says, a foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city. All right, so we see it's a foolish woman, and this is foolishness personified as a woman. And then it mentions three major characteristics of this foolish woman. It says she's clamorous, she's simple, and she knoweth nothing. All right, the word clamorous there, it means to growl, to roar. I guess more in a figurative sense, it means to be boisterous or turbulent. And basically the idea seems to be that she's loudmouth. She's a troublemaker. Usually through her mouth, she's got to criticize this and say, oh, well, they don't know nothing, and these people are crazy, or they have no idea what they're doing, and acting like she knows, probably acting like she knows more than everybody else. So she's clamorous, and it says she is simple, and the word simple there means naive. It basically means she lacks wisdom. She's simple in the fact that she doesn't know much. And in fact, the next phrase, it says, and knoweth nothing. Her mental database is empty, and so she has nothing to work with up there. It's she doesn't know as much as she thinks that she knows. She wants to act like she knows a lot, which is where the clamorous or the boisterousness, her mouthing off. She wants to make it look like she knows a lot, but she knows nothing. Then it says, for she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city. All right. Now, in contrast to wisdom, she was a woman who she was working. She built her house. She hewed out the pillars. She prepared. She killed her beasts. I mean, she was working to prepare a feast. She was cooking and doing everything to get everything ready. Not foolishness. She is sitting at the door of her house. Presumably, wisdom was standing, working, taking care of business, getting things ready. Foolishness, she's sitting at the door of her house. Apparently she's lazy, and we'll see her laziness here in a moment. Then it says on a seat in the high places of the city. The word seat there can refer to a throne. It may be more generically just a stool or a chair or something, but it can also mean a throne. But it's in the high places of the city. And again, this could be elevated places in the city, but it also can mean the places of authority. And she likes to be there, associated with or being there. Apparently, this is where she lives. She sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city. So she is. She's using this governmental authority and such to try to enhance the vision or her people's perception of her that you should listen to me because I'm here in these places of authority. But then it says she calls to the passengers who go right on their ways. This is verse 15. And she says, Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. And as for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. So it says she calls on passengers who go right on their ways. The word passengers there, it means the passersby. She's sitting there. She's not going out after them looking for people. She's just sitting there, and she sees somebody walking by. She calls out to them. And it says to passerbys who go right in their ways. The word right there means straight or upright. So these are people who are they're walking rightly, doing the things that they're supposed to do. These are not. She's extending her appeal where wisdom was appealing to the foolish to get them to come and gain wisdom. She's basically, these are the people who are wisely doing the right thing, and so she's calling to them. She's not calling to the foolish because they're already partaking of her table. She's calling to these who are doing what is right, following God's wisdom, and so she's calling to them. And notice her invitation very closely duplicates what wisdom was saying. It says, Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. That's exactly what wisdom said. And then it says, As for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him. And so she's inviting these people, saying, come on in. But whereas wisdom had prepared the food, it's a big table full of all sorts of, all the kinds of food that you could possibly want to eat. Here, she has not prepared that type of a table. She says, instead of preparing a food, a banquet herself, she says, stolen waters are sweet and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. This is not food and water that she has prepared herself. She has stolen the waters. She says, these stolen waters, they're sweet. They're great. And it says, and bread eaten in secret. And why would you be eating it in secret? It's because you've stolen it as well. And so she is appealing to our sinful nature. That there's a certain excitement, I guess, or allure to things that are, done like stolen. That it's and I'm running out of time here. And so she's insinuating that stolen waters and stolen bread, these are more desirable than eating legitimate stuff that's been prepared. And then verse 18 says, But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. The person who is listening to her invitation and is accepting the invitation, he doesn't realize that all those who have gone before him into her house, they are dead and they are in the depths of hell. That going in the way of foolishness is destruction. All right. So we'll be in, I think it's chapter 13 next week.